Welcome to Subconscious Conversations, where we take a look into the intricate world of the subconscious mind and how to heal the body, mind, heart, and spirit through its wisdom and guidance. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Brielle, and I'm the soul practitioner at Springseed Wellness, where I practice the energy medicine techniques of Soul Survey, which I created myself, and Emotion Code, Body Code, and Belief Code, which were created by Dr. Bradley Nelson, as well as Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, which was created by Dolores Cannon. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about heart walls. I thought it was a good time to talk about this subject because of the buzz going around about Dr. Brad's new book called Heart Code, which he co-wrote with his wife, Jean. Now, the Emotion Code book does have a chapter on heart walls, but this new book is entirely dedicated to them, and it contains a lot of information, testimonials, and guides you through how to remove your own heart wall. And I believe the release date on that book is December 2nd, but it should be available for pre-order if you're interested. But either way, I thought it was a fitting time to talk about the heart wall. But a little bit of a disclaimer here. I have not read the new book, and I have no idea, therefore, what details they discuss in the book. And what I'm discussing today is simply based on my own experiences and my training as well. But I guess I will start by explaining what the heart wall is, because some of you probably don't even know what it is. So as we go through life, we inevitably get hurt by various negative experiences, such as teasing, heartbreak, loss, a myriad of disappointments. And if we don't know how to properly manage those emotional events, which most of us don't, we tend to feel very vulnerable, and we feel the need to protect ourselves from future pain. And one of the ways that your subconscious protects you is by building energetic walls. And these walls can be constructed around any part of the body or even around the entire body. However, most of the time we see these energetic walls of protection around the heart, because that's really the center of your being. You know, a lot of people don't realize just how magnificent our hearts are. In fact, there's been a lot of new research that shows the heart sends more informational signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. And they've discovered a very specialized neural network in the heart, which is essentially like a little mini brain. And we tend to think of the brain as the organ that controls our bodies, but the heart is actually in more control, and the brain responds according to what the heart tells it. And I'm not going to go any further into that, but there's been a lot of recent breakthroughs in the understanding of the heart, its neural makeup, and the interactions between the heart and the brain. And you can look up more details on that yourself if you choose to do so. But the important point I'm trying to make is the heart is physiologically one of the most important organs in our body. But not only that, it is incredibly important emotionally speaking as well. So that's why we most oftentimes find these energy walls around the heart. Now, these energy walls are constructed by your subconscious mind by utilizing trapped energy in your body and placing it around whatever it's trying to protect. So in a heart wall, you'll find all sorts of trapped emotions from various points all throughout your life, and not necessarily in chronological order either. And depending on how traumatic your life has been, how you deal with those stressors, and a bunch of other different factors, you might find a ton of layers in the heart wall, or just a few. It just all depends on your individual experience and reactions in life. But most people do have a heart wall of some sort. And they are very effective at emotionally protecting us when we're going through difficult times. But the problem is, most of us don't realize this is even happening, and most of us don't know how to release those issues very readily. And if you have this wall of negative energy around your heart, yes, it protects your heart from further emotional harm. But this fortress that you've built up also ends up bathing your heart in negative energy. So if you no longer need this barrier between the outside world and your heart, it creates a negative environment around your heart, which negatively affects how you view the world and how you interact with the world, as well as probably negatively affecting the health of your heart as well. So it's really important to remove these energetic walls. But it's equally important to do so cautiously. Now, I haven't heard many other practitioners talk about this, but I have realized through my own experience the importance of removing these walls cautiously. And the reason for that is someone might consciously think that they're ready to release their heart wall, but subconsciously they still aren't ready for whatever reason. And if you remove the heart wall before they're truly ready to do so, they can end up feeling incredibly and almost uncontrollably vulnerable. And feeling that level of vulnerability is pretty scary and can be pretty destructive to your behavior as well. And that level of vulnerability and fear is just going to lead to recreating a new heart wall anyway. And you might be wondering, well, why would your subconscious mind ever allow you to remove it too quickly, or if the person isn't ready for it? Well, if your conscious intention and the focus of the practitioner are both heavily geared towards the singular goal of releasing the trapped emotions in the heart wall, your subconscious will comply to the maximum extent that your body can process those changes. But that doesn't mean that your mind and your emotions are going to have an easy time of it. Now, I first noticed this with myself because part of my certification requirement was to remove my own heart wall, which sounded like a great idea with many benefits. But let me tell you, it was not an easy feat, and it took a long time to get through all of the layers. I have a very tender heart, so I had created a very large heart wall. But going through that process of removing it was, well, really exhausting for one thing. But it was also very difficult because I felt so overwhelmingly vulnerable and it was so hard to deal with. And within a week or two of removing it, I started building a new heart wall anyway because I was still going through a really tough time in my life emotionally at that point, and I just wasn't ready for my heart wall to be removed, even though I thought I was. And I still very much needed that protective layer in order to feel safe enough to function in life. And that sounds really sad, but it's very true for a lot of people. In fact, I saw it happen with another person I was removing a heart wall for as well. At first, they felt great, but after the first few sessions of removing some of the layers, they were in tears because they felt just way too vulnerable, and we had to just stop removing it. So it's really imperative to remove the heart wall slowly and responsibly, and that's just something I've learned over time with my own experience. And that's another point I do want to make. It does take multiple sessions to remove a heart wall, at least most of the time, because there's only so much energy shifts that the body can process all at once. And personally, I feel like I need to also double check with the client's subconscious mind to ensure that number one, we're not overloading their system, but number two, we're also clearing up any associated issues which might keep someone feeling too vulnerable to release the heart wall. And there's also a little bit of follow up work I do in order to help the heart feel safe after the heart wall is removed, in an effort to just prevent it from having any inclination to rebuild later. And that's where I find myself in a little bit of a quandary with this work, is because I know how important it is to remove the heart wall if it's no longer needed. But I also know how important it is to do so at the right speed and in the right sequence of events in order to truly benefit the client. So, therefore, I tend not to prefer to go into a session strictly focused on only removing the heart wall. I much prefer to just release those layer by layer as they come up naturally within the normal course of a body code session. Because that way the subconscious is in complete control of what layers are removed and when, and guides us seamlessly through all the appropriate associations to clear out as well. And I think that it just works a little bit more smoothly that way. And that's how I finally removed my second heart wall. But the disadvantage to doing it this way is that you don't actually realize the specific time when the heart wall was actually fully removed. It just simply stops coming up in future sessions. But even though you might not catch the specific date that your heart wall was removed, you still gain all the beautiful benefits of having it gone. And I think I was at a little bit of a disadvantage when I removed my first heart wall because I was pushing pretty hard to complete it for my certification. And that was my first certification in emotion code, so I didn't even know body code yet. And therefore, I wasn't able to clear up any of the associated imbalances that were keeping me in that traumatized, vulnerable state and where I was not subconsciously ready to remove it. And maybe it's just that perspective from that personal experience that makes me feel this way, but I find it a little difficult to effectively remove a heart wall with long lasting effects without also building in the extra steps to clear up the extra things in order to ensure that the client isn't in any distress at any point during the process and doesn't end up rebuilding it shortly afterwards. But sometimes the client really wants to just focus on the heart wall and nothing else, and that's a very fair desire. I really do get it. So I do offer that, but I make sure that the client is aware that it will take multiple sessions and make sure that they know to reach out to me right away if they are feeling any extreme vulnerability or any abnormally rough processing symptoms of any kind. And I always double check with the subconscious the whole time to make sure that we're not going too far too fast and make sure that we're getting all the associated issues cleared up as well. And it is a very wonderful and oftentimes life-changing thing to have your heart wall removed, as long as you're at a point in your life when you're ready for it. I have heard of and experienced really amazing results, but I've also seen and experienced some slightly unfavorable results as well, and I think it's really important to be upfront and honest about that. Because the more knowledgeable the client is about the process, the more they can effectively advocate for what they want to get out of their own healing journey, and therefore the smoother it will go. Now, another honest truth that I think people need to be aware of is that removing the heart wall isn't guaranteed to improve your relationships, at least not in the way you might expect. For instance, like I was just saying endlessly, if a heart wall is removed too quickly or when someone isn't ready for it, there can be some difficulties in the way they interact with other people around them, which might not be beneficial to those relationship dynamics. But most importantly, it's good to know that it's not going to suddenly and magically change all your relationships. However, it is going to very much change the way you feel about yourself and about the world, which is going to change how you act and react in life, which is going to change your relationship dynamics. But it's important to know that that can go either way. It very well may save your marriage or bring peace to a strained relationship with any number of friends and family. But it can sometimes go the other way too. The person might realize from a much deeper perspective that the relationship they're in just isn't working for them for whatever reason. So it can potentially lead to splits in different relationships as well. But the most important thing to remember is as long as you're living your life through your heart with your highest potential in mind and making heart-informed decisions for yourself, that's a good thing no matter what outcomes might be involved. In other words, living authentically true to yourself is a good thing for you, even if some relationships end up falling away in that process. It's your journey, so you might as well be authentically you, right? And the very beneficial and positive effects are the more layers of your heart wall that you remove, the more open to love you become. Even if you feel like you're already a very loving person, you quickly realize how much greater capacity for love that you have. And you start to view the world and yourself in a much more positive way, and you find yourself making meaningful connections with people more easily rather than feeling kind of isolated and disconnected. And when you open your heart more, you find joy more easily. And when you're a happier person, you're a healthier person. But not only that, you also start to notice positive changes in the way that you interact with people. When your attitude and energy start to become more and more positive and relaxed and loving, that has an infectious positive effect on others because it changes how you approach others, and it changes the energy that you give off when you're around them, and they start to become more positive, relaxed, and loving when they're around you as well. So it really is a very wonderfully beneficial thing to remove your heart wall. So if you want to try your hand at removing your own heart wall, check out Dr. Brad and his wife Jean's new book when it comes out. Or if you would like someone else to remove it for you, just reach out to a skilled practitioner. Just make sure that you trust them to do it in a way that is most beneficial for your unique situation. Well, on that note, thank you so much for joining me today, and please join me for the next episode where I will be getting into some of the spookier subjects in honor of October and Halloween season. See you then! If you would like to set up a session with me to experience this work for yourself, please go to springseedwellness.com. If you would like to find a practitioner in your local area, please go to discoverhealing.com. And please always feel free to reach out with any questions or specific topics you would like me to address. See you next episode.